we can talk about what some people have called the deep history of platforms, because if we think about what platforms do, there's a sort of strong argument emerging, I think, in the scholarship that what they do is they connect with, they extend, and they modify existing kinds of market structures. They replace and reconfigure markets. Julie Cohen talks about how they rematerialize markets. So they don't really enter markets. They create new rules for markets. And I think in lots of circumstances, you can see them playing a formalizing role. And I think if we understand that, especially, of course, in the context of our region and the economic and historical complexity that we deal with there, it does help a great deal to understand where they might be going. If we think of them as creating new layers of intermediation over and above existing social and economic relations, as Adrian Afik has said. To just mention a couple of examples, I suppose. Adrian, colleague at University of Queensland and a terrific Indian scholar in this area, Vibod Parthasarathi, have written a lot about how 19th century emporiums foreshadow the evolution of the digital Indian platform economy, how emporia pioneered what was a new kind of retail space with multiple supply chains and a huge plethora of different kinds of retail products, how they pioneered branding, how they pioneered systems of discovery, analogous to the complex discovery modes that we find in existing digital platforms, showcasing the diversity of products and services, how they played a centralizing role in those new urban landscapes for transport, for services, for entertainment, and so on, how they provided a basis for the development of what became department stores where critical commercial innovations such as cashless transactions developed. So I think that gives us an example of this kind of rematerialization that Julie Cohen was talking about. In relation to mapping, you can see a different kind of trajectory where that occurs on the basis of public sector innovations and governmental infrastructures. So the contemporary digital mapping platforms, which we're increasingly familiar with, can be seen as private market-driven inflections of what has been described as the cartographic project, that project that really gathers pace in the 19th century of nation states, a significantly longer standing project, which was all about defining territories, formalizing and aggregating geospatial information into strongly branded authoritative systems. So all the hallmarks of contemporary platforms, but back some time, they were about mapping, in particular about mapping private property and assigning definitive plate names and place names and those kinds of things. So I think there's some of the ways in which you can explore those what I'm calling the deep history of platforms, and focusing on that question of materialization. You can, I think, sort of see where the key points of friction are likely to be. Where they succeed, it's where platforms are combining those institutional and commercial functions successfully. Platforms, of course, fail for innumerable reasons, but the mapping platforms, which we've been talking about a bit in particular, succeeded really because they had the enormous resources of colonial and then post-colonial states behind them. And I think where we see platforms succeed, it's often where you have these scalar disparities in size and scope, which really turn the competitive landscape upside down and do successfully create new market rules.